designed, okay, the recording came back. I designed fabrics for about 10 years, and this was one of my hummingbird fabrics that I wanted to have used in the as the end papers. What I loved about doing this book is when I think about a subject of animals, but I like all the story around it. I like the science, but I like it's facts and folklore. The folklore about hummingbirds is fascinating. So that's that. Okay, I'll give you a couple more. So now I've done, this is the dog book. I don't know if people can see that. And this is my for youngest ones. This is written in the language of quack, of which I am totally fluent. So that's that. But it was meant to be, hold on, sorry. It was meant to be, they used it actually for a lot of second language people, because the kids could tell their parents the story. And it's sort of when you would put on a Spanish station or another language station, you'll hear the language, and then all of a sudden, the moon. So this is what it was. It's sort of, so that librarians really like that one. Let's see, I'll show you just one more. This is about Quilt of States. It's how the United States came together chronologically, not alphabetically. I hated geography as a kid, absolutely hated it. Yet most of the things I do are geography and history. So I don't know why, but what I like it kind of my way. So this was really fun to do because I got to use, I did not repeat one piece of fabric. So that was a lot. This took about 10 months, this book. So there's Georgia Peaches. So my books have been wonderful to do. And otherwise I've been doing just a series on a slanted block image that I want to get back to. It's just a shape that I created. And if anyone has any questions.
That's really fascinating. I love how you're using fabric in your art and your art in your fabric, and it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. Hope, what have you been doing?
Well, I have a mix of abstract work, realistic work. I do sacred work. I do a lot of charity work for homeless children in the city. I'm going to, in the next few weeks, do some more painting on fabric, I think, and more calligraphy on fabric. I took a little hiatus. I lost my husband 2 years ago, and so it took me a while to get back into focus. And so it feels good to be back in my studio and just piecing fabric together. If you go to my website, you can see I do mostly I prefer abstract. I find that the people around me mostly prefer my realistic work. I do a lot of nature. I've just finished one that I'm submitting to Visions for consideration in their upcoming exhibit, or Quilt Visions challenge, or a call for entry, I guess it is. So, and that's, one is abstract and one is not. So we'll see what happens. You just never know. I mean, it's fun to be, to not have a long history in quilting, to see what you can produce and see what people like and see what you like, and use the fabric of my great fabric stash that I have. So.
Wonderful, fascinating. Marianne, you must have some questions or some ideas.
Well, hi, Randall. Yeah, I don't know. Welcome to everybody. Randall and I are both board members on the Iowa Quilt Museum. I was the original chair, and Randall took the baton from me. And so, we're so fortunate that we get to help hang these exhibits. And just a fun fact is that most of the volunteers that were hanging this exhibit were former educators, and everybody was crying part of the time they were hanging the exhibit because it just was so moving for all of us. And I have to say, I knew a little bit about the women's suffrage movement. I knew that it was hard won to get the vote, but I had not realized quite the extent to which the men tried to stop it. I knew they weren't for it, but I didn't realize the lengths that the establishment went to prevent women from voting. So I applaud all of you artists. I think the day after we hung the exhibit, I was on duty in the gift shop, and I took a copy of the book and I went to each quilt and read everything about it. So I feel like I kind of know you and your work as you talked about it. And I think, Adrian, I know you from somewhere. I'm not sure where. I mean, are we friends through Paula Nadelstern or something like that?
I was the director when I was at the Northern Star Quilt Guild when you came to talk, and I took you, we went to the museums in New York.
That's right. I knew I had hung out with you at some time, and I actually, I'm digressing here, but I was thinking maybe you had been a winner in the Statue of Liberty contest. So I got the book out and I looked for it. So that's what it was. It was a New York City connection, but
The Whitney Museum.
yeah, the Whitney Museum of West. We did that. We did that long ago. So anyway, I mean, I try to think if I have a specific question. It's just such an honor for this little museum in Little Winterset, Iowa, to be a stop on this exhibit schedule. And of course, it's winter, so this is our lowest time of traffic. But I was there on Sunday, and we only had about 3 or 4 guests, but they were the best kind. They spent, an hour or so going through everything. One was a husband and wife that went through and read everything. So it's really gratifying when people take the time to look at everything. So I guess one question I have for all of you today, the artists, is have you had an opportunity to see the show? We can start with Adrian, but have you gotten to see the show in person or not? So we can start with Adrian.
I was booked. I lost all that money. I was supposed to go to Paducah, but then COVID. And so I canceled right before. I don't even know if they canceled the airline, which is why I can't get that money back. So I was so dying to see it. So yeah.
Yeah. So it was going to be in Paducah. You were going to see it in Paducah?
Yeah.
So unless you pop on over to Winterset, Iowa.
Well, come to Houston. Come to Houston. It's going to be
right. We'll be in Houston.
I'm so thrilled because I've not seen it, and it'll be a wonderful exhibit at George R. Brown. It's a wonderful show, the International Quilt Show. It's just fabulous.
It's coming to your home, to your town.
It is coming to my town. I'm just thrilled.
It's great.
I
What about you, Robin?
I saw it at the Virginia Quilt Museum in Harrisonburg because I was visiting. Just
It's trying.
see everybody else's work as well.
Yeah. That's great. What about you, Joan? Have you been able to see the exhibit in person?
I wasn't able to, and I can't remember why not, because it wasn't very far from here in Sunnyvale, which is near San Jose.
Probably COVID.
I studied the book a lot, and I know many of the artists in the book, so it was nice to see what people do when they have a mutual theme. I'd like to say a little bit about what I'm doing now. I've had the most extraordinary run of things, even though things haven't been open for a while. It just seems like so many things have happened. I had a show that just came down in San Francisco that was up for 3 months. And it was in September when the opening, and 150 people came. that evening, all masked, and they had the doors open and everything. And I noticed that these were all strangers. Very few of my friends came to the opening because they were going to come other times. But I thought it was so interesting. And a lot of the people that came said that they knew me or knew of me through quilts, even though I do collage also. And so I'd like to say a little bit about how I got to being quilts. It was not my first choice. It was not a choice at all. It was almost forced upon me in a way, in that I was teaching embroidery in the 60s and so forth. And the bicentennial was coming up, the early 70s, and people would stop me and say, Joan, what quilt are you going to do for the bicentennial? And I said, why would I do a quilt? I'm not a quilt maker. They said, no, you are. You do trapunto, you do this, you do that, and all your embroidery. So I was doing all these quilt techniques and didn't call them quilt techniques. So I said, well, I'll do one. So I did one, and then I did another. That was 1974 when I did my first quilt, and now more than that, a zillion years later, and I'm at my 940th quilt, and I hope to reach 1,000. And the reason I want to reach 1,000, it was never a goal, is that there's this Japanese artist, Soji Hamada, who is called the father of ceramics, a very important man. And he was working with this English master of clay. And they discussed how you become a master. And Soji said that you make 1,000 cups, and 1,001 is when you are really, truly a master and know what you're doing. So I need to quickly get to 1,000 before I leave this earthly just because when you get that close to a non-specific goal and it becomes very specific, it motivates you. So I'm having the most productive time of my life, I think. My husband died in 2018, and I did a book called Winter of Loss, and that propelled me into doing these new works, which are, again, about women and women's faces and how we perceive women. And the title of the newest one is called Less Ordinary. So I'm still with the theme, but I'm reinventing it and doing it in different ways. And it'll propel me to the 1,000. And I'll have a big party if I should reach that goal. So that's my story.
That's so interesting. That's great. I think I've heard that quote before about the cups, because it's the famous artist. And so it's a famous quote, I think, for makers.
Absolutely. Yes.
Did we get to hear from each of you about what you're working on? I know we talked to Adrian and also Hope.
I didn't.
Robin, yeah, let's turn it over to you.
Well, I just finished a bed quilt for my husband and myself. I posted it to my Instagram account late last night. I mean, I literally finished it last night. I love language, clearly, and I enjoy using it in different ways in my quilts, but you can explore many, 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 many different themes through the prism of language. I'm a native of New York City. I love the urban environment, and I'm always looking for ways to incorporate that visually. I love mannequins. I think they're very peculiar. And I post a lot of mannequins to my Instagram account as well. You can go off in a lot of directions. So I'm also, even though the information on to publicize this event claimed I was still working for the Metropolitan Museum, I actually retired at the end of March in 2019. So I'm still working off that experience of having been an AV geek for the museum for many decades. So I made one quilt so far, and I'm about to embark on a second one of being a media equipment installer. And I'm just following my bliss. I mean, I'm pretty newly retired, and it's an enormous adjustment. And I'm sitting in my studio. I did not expect to have a studio outside of my apartment. And then events conspired, and here I am with 3 times as much space.
And frozen.
She'll be back.
Finally settling down to really, really enjoy it.
Well,
That's
we're so
wonderful.
glad you are.
Before we all leave, Joan, when you have that party, will you please let me know? I'm coming. Sounds like a great event.
DM me, and it'll be in San Francisco at my studio. I can
I'll
tell you.
come. I love San
We'll
Francisco.
have tackled COVID and wrestled it through the ground and get back some sort of semblance of reasonable life where we can meet friends and give hugs and all of that. So I look forward to that.
Here's to that. for
On
sure.
all fronts.
I wanted to address one thing that was in the chat a couple minutes ago. And I'm sorry, a phone is ringing, but Carissa I don't know if Carissa explained at the top of the program today that she needed to jump off to do a guild presentation. That's why the recording stopped and started. And someone was asking to see pictures of works again on the screen, but that's on her computer. So neither Randall nor I are able to show pictures of your work. But all of you that are watching today, just Google these artists, and you'll be able to find their works and look at them in detail on their own flat shots, or if it's Adrian's books and so forth. That's one of the great things about the internet, is we can find more information. So all of you have websites, I suspect.
Yeah.
And I think Carissa is going to include that information with the email that she sent out about the availability of the program on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, she's going to do that. She
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Well, thank you
She was
all
like,
for
can
coming.
I do 2 do Zoom programs at one time? And she said, yes, I think I can. So we've not done that before.
We're all exploring new adventures during this period. We've come a long way digitally.
Thanks for inviting us. This has been really rewarding. And it's good to see you, Robin. You remember you toured me your office at the Metropolitan in the late 70s, early 80s. And it was a lot of
early 80s. It would have been the early 80s. I started there in 1981.
yeah, it was early on.
Yes.
And I remember the exhibit too. It was all those heads. So you've been absconding with the heads of mannequins, and you put them in the museum.
Yes, that's true. Or maybe I'm spiriting them away.
Exactly. So
After the Alexander McQueen exhibit, which was so notorious and so exciting, the Costume Institute was getting rid of a lot of their old mannequins because of renovation. They didn't have space to store them all. And I still have mannequin hands left over that they were about to discard. So, yes.
I was looking behind you to see if I could see a mannequin, but you don't have one.
No, but I will.
Okay.
They're certainly on my quilts.
Yeah. Well, good to see you.
Likewise. And my brother lives a few blocks away from where you had that exhibit in San Francisco. So I'm sure.
Mission.
Yes. So I'm sure he was one of the people, because I said, I think this is right where you live. And he said, yes, it is.
Well, they hung the show was just glorious. And there's a link to a website called Ruth's Table Gallery. And the book should be published, but it's on the internet. And they did such a beautiful job writing with my words, their words, the images and so forth. So it's still up on the internet. So I think if everybody goes to people's website, they'll see links to other places where you can see not only their quilts, but others, because we very often show together and we enhance each other's work that way. So it's a good thing.
It's
Anyway.
wonderful. Well, on behalf of Carissa and Randall and me and the board of the Iowa Quilt Museum, we so appreciate all of you, Adrian, Hope, Joan, and Robin, for spending an hour with each other and our other viewers. And it's just been great. And I hope some of you out there will make your way to the Iowa Quilt Museum. We will welcome you warmly. I'm heading to QuiltCon tomorrow in Arizona. I'm getting out for the first time in a long time. So maybe there'll be some of the audience might be there too.
Yeah. I think
So-
people are coming out a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
not in great numbers, but moving towards.
Yeah. I look forward to going to
So-
QuiltCon with you, Marianne.
Yes, yeah. Randall's already out in Scottsdale, so we're gonna link up. Someone's asking how long Deeds Not Words will be up. It ends April 10th, which is a Sunday. So it'll come down on Sunday after 4 p.m.
So there's lots of time to come see it. I was not
Museum-
able to help hang this exhibit. I felt so bad that I was gone, but I was in warmer climate, so I guess that was good. But I'm excited to see the exhibit in person. I really can't wait.
And we're open from 10 to 4 in the winter, every day, except Sunday, it's noon to 4.
Wow.
The admission is $7, I think. I think we have a senior price too, but it's very affordable.
Yeah.
And well worth it.
Marianne, oh, Marianne,
Yes,
I put something in the chat. I don't know if everybody saw it, but if you come to Winterset, you might want to know that Susan B. Anthony spoke in our courthouse in 1875 about women's rights, and we have a commemorative sign that we put up in 2020 during the pandemic with a group of women who created that sign commemorating her lecture and the response of the newspapers of the time, the men who responded to what she had to say. So if
Great.
you do come to Winterset, stop and see our commemorative sign about Susan B. Anthony, who is in about 13 or more quilts at the exhibit.
right. That's the voice of Carol Lichty, who's one of the retired teachers who helped hang the show. And there's a lot of artwork on the exterior of buildings, historic buildings in the square. There's some really neat vintage photos in large format of farmers and different things from the 19th century. And there's also an alley with the Susan B. Anthony plaque on it. So there's a lot to see in Winterset if you ever come our way.
It definitely is, and we will welcome you. We promise. Thanks, everyone. Be sure to check out the Iowa Quilt Museum website, iowaquiltmuseum.org, and follow what we're doing. There's always something new.
And if you want to purchase a copy of Deeds Not Words, it's a $20 book. I'm not sure what our shipping is, but it's a very high quality. The photography is beautiful. So it's a great souvenir of the show if you can't get to see it in person.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye all.